Hey, 8th grade. Today we are going to continue in chapter 11 with 11.3. Today we're going to be simplifying rational expressions. We're going to continue working with them similarly to yesterday. One thing that will be different today is that we will not be graphing, okay? There are 3 skills, and the first of the 3 is to state the excluded values for each of the expressions. So if we have an example that looks like this, 3b minus 2 over b plus 7, right? So 2 polynomials. If we are supposed to find out what we can't use because we don't want 0 on the bottom, we focus on the denominator, right? And b plus 7, if we want to get the variable alone, we subtract on both sides and we end up with b equals negative 7. So, in order to make this a true statement, right, what will make it equal to 0? It's negative 7. Because we don't want that on the bottom, our answer is that b cannot be negative 7. Okay? It's our excluded value. To make it slightly different, so this was like yesterday. Today, what we're doing that's different is you will have to simplify some of the problems. Okay? So in this one, 5x stays on top. We don't need to worry about that. We need to focus on the bottom, and it can be factored, right? It can be factored. So x squared minus 81, those are squares. So we get x plus 9 and x minus 9, which then we can do our case 1, case 2. We end up with 9 and negative 9. And remember, this is what we don't want, right? So we're going to say x cannot be negative 9 or 9. Okay? You try one. You try one. So when we're talking about the excluded values, we're focusing on the denominator. So for yours, 5a squared plus 2, a squared minus a minus 12 on the bottom. You have to go back a little bit, but this is a trinomial, right? So you need to factor it, similar to what we did here. What will you multiply to get negative 12? And when you add or combine, you get a negative a. Pause it if you need to. You should get that a is not equal to 4 or negative 3. Try one more. 3a minus 2 over a squared plus 6a plus 8. Right, so we're only focusing on the bottom. So if I bring that over, I'm trying to figure out what, when we multiply, we'll get 8, and when we combine, we will get 6. So that's 2 and 4. So I'm going to end up with a plus 2, a plus 4. And then when I sub and set them equal to 0, that means I don't want a equal to negative 2 and negative 4, right? They're opposites. All right, skill 2. Simplify each expression, then state the excluded values of the variables. Let's try one. If I have 16 p squared over 28 p, just p, I can cancel my letters, right? If I take, this is 2 of them, right? So if I cancel one of them out, I'm left with just a p on top, no p's on the bottom. And then 16 over 28, 4 goes into both those. 4 goes into the top 4 times, and it goes into the bottom 7. So I'm left with 4p over 7. Okay? And in this case, there's no variable on the bottom. So it's not, there's nothing to substitute. Let's try one where there is. Let's say we have 2r plus 18 over r squared plus 8r minus 9. So on the top, I need to, simplify each expression. I have to simplify it first. So I'm going to pull out a 2, and I'm left with r plus 9. And because we're simplifying, that's the goal here, I'm going to guess that r plus 9 is going to be used as one of my factors down here. So if I look at it, I need to multiply and get 9, and then combine negative 9, and then combine and get a positive 8. So we're going to have r plus 9 and r minus 1 when I factor that down. So my r plus 9s cancel out, and I'm left with 2 over r minus 1. That cannot be factored further. So that's my simplified answer. However, to answer the second part, to find the excluded values, I have to use both of these. Okay, I have to use both of these on the bottom. So for my excluded values, I'm going to use r plus 9 equal to 0 and r minus 1 equal to 0. So my set that it cannot be equal to is negative 9 and a positive 1. Okay, let's do some more. Let's say that we have, 45 on the top and 10a minus 10 on the bottom. So on the top, there's nothing to simplify yet. So on the bottom, I'm going to pull out a 10 since they both have it, which means I'm left with a minus 1. 5 goes into both of these numbers. So 9 is what's left when I pull out a 5, and 2 on the bottom. So simplified, I get 9 over 2 parentheses a minus 1. So that's the simplified answer. Then to find the excluded values, this is only for the variables, So 2 doesn't have a variable. I don't have to use that at all. It's just going to be a minus 1 set to 0. So I get a cannot be 1. You try one. Here you go. X minus 4 over 3x squared minus 12x. I'm going to solve this one silent. If you're not finished, pause it. The answer for this one, simplified, is 1 over 3x. And then when you solve for both of these factors have variables, so you have to set them both equal to 0. That's what was different from this. This did not have a variable. So you get 2 answers for your set of numbers that x cannot be equal to. Okay, let's do another one. x squared plus 8x plus 12. So we've got a trinomial on top, and on the bottom we have another trinomial, x squared plus 3x minus 18. So on the top, we want to multiply and get 12, and when we combine, we get 8. So that's going to be x plus 2, x plus 6, right? 2 and 6 is 12, and when we add them, right, for the FOIL, like for example, the O's and the I's will give us the 8x. And then on the bottom, we've got 18 and negative 18, so we need one of them to be negative. And so minus 3 plus 6, right? When we multiply 6 times negative 3, we get negative 18. And when we combine them, we get a positive 3. X plus 6 over x plus 6, that's equal to 1. So our simplified answer is x plus 2 over x minus 3. And then our excluded values, we're going to go back to our original denominator, right, before we simplified. So x minus 3 equals 0, x plus 6 equals 0, which means we're going to get the opposite. So x cannot be 3, x cannot be negative 6. For our second answer. Okay? Let's have you guys try one like this. Your trinomial for the top is x squared minus 11x plus 18 over x squared plus 2x minus 8. If you still need more time, please pause it. The answer to this one simplified is x minus 9 over x plus 4. And then to solve for the excluded values, we need, when you sub in, to try to get the variable alone, it cannot be negative 4 and it cannot be a positive 2, right? And all of these you can check, right, visually. If we plugged in negative 4 here, this would equal 0. And we can't have a 0 down here because 0 times everything would make the whole thing undefined. And it also can't be a 2 because 2 minus 2 would give us the 0. Okay, skill 3. I'm going to start on this paper. Skill 3. Find the zeros of each function. So our vocabulary is changing, right? When we were talking about finding the excluded values, we're talking denominator. When we're finding the zeros of the function, now we're talking numerator. So if we take a look at an example, let's say we have x squared minus x minus 12 over x minus 2. We need to factor the top. There's nothing to factor on the bottom. To get negative 12 and then a negative 1, we're going to have x minus 4, x plus 3. So then we're going to take our numerator, x minus 4, and set it equal to 0, x plus 3 equal to 0. Okay, so in this case we're getting a 4 and a negative 3. Let's do another one. X squared plus 2x minus 15 over x plus 1. On the top, when we factor, we're going to get an x plus 5 and an x minus 3. The bottom stays the same. The top, x plus 5 equal to 0, gives us negative 5. X minus 3 gives us x. So for our answer here, we don't want 3 or negative 5. Okay. Last one is for you. And then you get homework. X squared minus x minus 6 on the top. On the bottom, x squared plus 8x plus 12. When you're finished, go ahead and get started on the homework. You are going to be on page 694, and we're going to do the odd numbers between 13 and 35. Thanks, guys. Good luck.